Carl Reiner is probably the most important thing that ever happened to me in my life. I mean, outside of my children, but even with that, he's in a category of his own. There is nothing I've ever written that didn't have a little bit of Carl Reiner's DNA in it. I learned from him. He made me respect what I was doing. He made me question everything I was doing. I have never, because of Carl, I have never written a joke. I mean, if I'm doing a speech for somebody, I'll write it. But in terms of a show, I will never say, oh, this would be funny to say, and then find a way to say, you write the truth, and then you let the truth be funny. And that's why the Van Dyke Show holds up as well as it does. It isn't arranged. It isn't forced. It happens naturally. And it's still, when I watch the reruns, I still laugh. And the funny thing is, I'll watch a Van Dyke Show, and I'll forget that I wrote it. You know, it's always like, boy, that's really good. I say, oh, geez, I wrote that. I see the credits, I can't remember. But I would go anywhere for Carl Reiner. He is the most extraordinary person, dear and loving. And the other thing about Carl is he is courageous in a way that very few people are. He will never back off in something he believes is right. And he will also not let anybody get away with anything. If you're behaving stupidly, and he's done it to me, he would just say, Billy, you know? And you just go, oh, jeez. No, he's incredible, and I'm thrilled to be here. I went in to have a story meeting with him. My partner, Sam Danoff, and I had written a sample script, and it was awful. But it had just enough style in it that he wanted to meet us. So he walked into his office, and I was just saying to somebody, Carl is 9 years older than I am. When I met him, it felt like I was meeting my father. I mean, he was so grown up, you know. And he said, I don't like this show, but I like your writing, and I'm going to let you write one with my help. And so the first one we ever wrote was about The Wrong Baby, which was a classic. And after that, he said, you can, as many of these as you can write, you can have. So the first season, we wrote 18 shows. And then we became story editors, and then we produced half of the last season because Carl did the Russians Are Coming, and we're just very close. There are so many that stand out, but I think one of the great moments that talks to who Carl is. There was a new CBS executive who was taking over comedy. And he came to California and had meetings with all of the shows that were on then, and everyone was so nervous about this guy. And he was a real automaton and a network executive, and he had no sense of humor. But people were scared because he had a lot of power. And when he finally came to the Van Dyke Show, he came up to Carl's office, and the first thing he did wrong was put his feet up on the coffee table, and Carl let that go by. And then the guy started to talk about how things had to be and how this had to be that, and there was no more of this. And then he said, now I'd like to tell you my idea of what's funny. And he started telling Carl what's funny. Carl got up from behind his desk, walked over, took off the guy's Gucci loafer, threw it out the window, and said, that's funny. And the guy was shocked, and then he started to laugh, and it was over. Decency in humor, never stooping below the dignity of human beings. He wrote to the dignity of people, even the people who were bad in the things. He always looked for what was decent about them. There was never a vulgar moment, ever. There was never an obscene moment. There was just funny, that people are funny.